Welcome to today's Explainer. So, I was looking into how modern manufacturing data works recently, and I uncovered something absolutely fascinating. It's essentially the missing operational layer that makes manufacturing data actually work in the real world. If you've ever felt like your organization has all the right tech, but somehow none of the right results, well, you are in the exact right place. Today, we're going to explore exactly how we bridge that massive gap between brilliant data standards and everyday boots-on-the-ground human execution. I want you to really think about that for a second. What actually happens when data flows perfectly, but nobody acts on it? This is the core mystery we're solving today. It's the reason why so many of these incredibly expensive digital thread investments just completely fail to change everyday business practices. I mean, companies are spending millions wiring up their systems, right? But the culture and the process, they simply don't shift. So why is that? Well, here's our roadmap for today to figure that out. We'll be covering the data silo, NIST's breakthrough, the unsolved gap, the IPE framework, 6 steps to excellence, and finally, standards and process united.
Let's start with Section 1, the data silos, basically the one-way street in manufacturing.
Okay, let's dive into this historical problem that has absolutely plagued process engineers and quality control managers for decades now. Traditionally, information flows down a one-way street. Your design engineers send their brilliant CAD files and specs down to the production floor. The floor makes the part, and the inspection systems measure it. Pretty standard, right? But here's the catch. Those critical inspection results rarely, if ever, make it back to the design engineers who desperately need them to improve the next iteration. It's literally like a chef who never once gets to taste the food they send out to the dining room. The real goal here is a continuous digital thread. We need a formal two-way feedback loop. Moving on to Section 2, NIST's technical breakthrough, bridging the software gap. So back between 2014 and 2018, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, actually set out to solve this exact communication barrier. They wanted to bridge that massive software gap. And honestly, technically speaking, they had a massive success. Without getting bogged down in all the heavy software jargon, NIST delivered some really incredible standards. Things like STEP AP242, the Quality Information Framework, and MT Connect. These essentially act as universal digital translators. Because of these breakthroughs, software systems from totally different vendors could finally talk to each other, creating this common, universal language for exchanging product and quality data. It was a real game changer. Which brings us to Section 3. The unsolved organizational gap, the human element of the digital thread. But here's the painful reality. Despite NIST's incredible technical achievement, there was a huge problem they just couldn't solve with code. In their own project description, NIST explicitly flagged, and I'm quoting here, building trust in a digital master and changing business practice and culture as an open problem completely outside their technical research plan. NIST themselves fully acknowledge that brilliant data standards alone cannot force people to trust a digital system, and they definitely don't assign human ownership to a feedback loop. It essentially boils down to this: data questions versus process questions. Think of the NIST data standard as a perfectly formatted message in a bottle. NIST gives you the ideal paper, the best ink, and the absolute perfect bottle to protect that message as it floats across the digital ocean. But without a process, there's no designated person standing on the beach to actually catch that bottle, read the message, and change their behavior based on what it says. And that takes us to Section 4. Enter the IPE framework, the essential process layer. Finding that missing person on the beach brings us to the brilliant work of John Cashot, which perfectly connects the technical blueprint to practical human reality. It's called Integrated Process Excellence, or IPE. It's a 6-step process deployment framework, and it's built around a causal data architecture that ties cause to effect. Basically, it connects key input variables, what you start with, to key process variables, how you make it, all the way to key output variables, the final result. IPE is the vital missing link here because it gives the digital thread the one thing a data standard simply cannot supply: a defined organizational home for every single input, output, and corrective loop in your entire company. Now, the really crucial point is how this architecture actually connects the dots. Notice how IPE takes your key output variables, say your final inspection results from the floor, and ties them directly back to the key input variables, the specific design specs that caused them in the first place. Because of this, the feedback now has a meaningful, specifically assigned destination. It's no longer just a data schema floating in the void. Let's look at Section 5, 6 steps to excellence, sustaining the cultural discipline. So here is exactly how IPE turns a one-time technical pilot into a sustained daily habit. First, and this is absolutely crucial, you create a positive environment. This directly builds that exact leadership trust that NIST said was missing. From there, you identify your key variables, develop and communicate standardized process worksheets across the organization, and ultimately, you use that data to control and improve the process. Instead of just a random list of tasks, it's this beautifully self-reinforcing cycle that gives every piece of data an owner and a specific action plan.
Finally, Section 6, Standards and Process United, the perfect partnership.
Now, I want to reassure you right now. IP doesn't replace your existing investments in NIST standards, like a standard like STEP or MT Connect. Not at all. It completes them. And this brilliantly illustrates that synergy. Notice how wherever NIST had a gap, IP provides the exact organizational answer. NIST saw a one-way flow. They answered with data standards. IP answers with Step 4, designed two-way communication across human boundaries. NIST created a schema for feedback. Well, IP provides the causal architecture to actually route it. NIST said building trust was outside their scope. IP's very first step is entirely dedicated to creating that trusted environment. It's a perfect match.
If you literally take away just one thing from this explainer today, let it be this. NIST writes the message. IPE defines who reads it and acts on it. The standards beautifully handle the data layer, ensuring the information itself is flawless. IPE handles the ownership layer, ensuring the human execution of that information is flawless. Now, the best part of all this is you don't even have to start with a blank page. There are actually 81 sector-specific IPE packs already built out for industries ranging from healthcare to manufacturing to plastic injection molding. These packs provide the process worksheets and the mapping tailored directly to your specific sector's landscape, which gives your organization a massive head start. So, if you're looking at your own enterprise architecture right now and realizing, hey, we have the software, but we definitely don't have the sustained process, it's time to close that feedback loop. To start mapping this out, you can reach out directly to John Cachet at ip.services, or just grab John Cachet's work on Amazon to start implementing this framework today. I'm going to leave you with this final thought to help evaluate your own company's digital thread maturity. You might have the data standards perfectly installed, but do you have the process discipline to make them a living thread? Think about it. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.